circle.
Began as a distant rumble in the mountains, turned into a disaster that swept through Guangxi's cities with devastating force. The flood that has now captured nationwide attention first descended silently from the highlands, gathering power from relentless rains before crashing down on urban neighborhoods. Witnesses describe a tragedy that unfolded in two acts, first in the remote hills, then in the heart of the city, where cars, streets, and lives were swallowed whole. The mountains, drenched by days of heavy downpour, could no longer contain the waters. Torrents burst from narrow valleys, cascading down rocky slopes, uprooting trees and carving new paths through rural roads. By the time the flood reached the lowlands, it was no longer just water. It was a roaring current, carrying soil, stones, and debris. Villagers and upland communities were the first to sound alarms, reporting streams that turned brown and ferocious within minutes, warning that the disaster was moving downstream with unstoppable speed. Hours later, the city of Guilin, one of Guangxi's cultural and economic hubs, bore the brunt. Streets once lined with bustling markets became rivers. Cars that had been parked neatly along curbs floated aimlessly, colliding with one another like toys in a bathtub. In some districts, the floodwaters surged so suddenly that drivers were trapped inside their vehicles. Rescuers worked frantically to pry open doors and windows as currents lifted sedans and swept buses into intersections. For many residents, the sound of rushing water was quickly followed by the metallic clash of vehicles smashing against each other, echoing through otherwise silent neighborhoods. By nightfall, the city's main avenues were unrecognizable. Floodwaters surged chest-high in several zones, submerging traffic lights and electrical boxes. The municipal drainage system, overwhelmed within the first hours, offered no relief as torrents from the mountains continued to pour in. Citizens described scenes of chaos, people wading through brown water with their belongings raised above their heads, entire rows of shops inundated, and residential blocks left stranded. Authorities confirmed that emergency teams had been dispatched throughout Guangxi, with rubber boats navigating streets that only yesterday had carried buses and bicycles. Helicopters circled above, tracking the spread of the flood as it expanded outward, threatening to engulf additional neighborhoods. The government issued Level 3 flood warnings, urging citizens to remain indoors or seek higher ground. Residents spoke of their disbelief at how swiftly the disaster escalated. In the morning, we heard news of heavy rains in the mountains, but we thought the city would be safe, said Mr. Chen, a shop owner whose car now lies submerged outside his store. By afternoon, the flood was already at our door. Within half an hour, it was inside. The floodwaters, almost as if possessing a will of their own, seemed to speak to the city, first whispering through the streams, then roaring through the streets. They swept away cars as though challenging the strength of human-built machines, reducing metal and glass to fragile shells against nature's force. Even as firefighters and volunteers rushed to stem the disaster, the current surged onward, insistent and unyielding. As Guangxi faces the aftermath, the city streets tell a story of resilience amid ruin. Submerged cars stand like silent markers of the night the waters came, while mud-streaked shop fronts record the flood's passing. For residents, the question is no longer how the flood arrived, but how long it will take to recover. For now, Guangxi remains a place where mountains and cities share a fragile link, and where the rains remind everyone that the force of nature still speaks louder than the walls of concrete built to contain it. Thanks for watching Severe Weather, where we break down the facts behind nature's most intense moments. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps this channel going. Hit the bell so you never miss a real, calm, and clear report. Note, some footage in this video may be used for illustration and may not show the exact event described. See you in the next one. Stay informed, stay safe.